Okay, Bismillah.
Forgot about it.
Yeah. Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Mind Heist 217.
I'm stuck in the 90s with my dial-up connection. At least
Yeah,
that's how it appears.
yeah, just looks like that. Yeah, bro. So it's funny because it's been a couple of weeks since I went to Algeria, but yeah, I don't know. How do you want to do it? Because should we do it like the Morocco episode where you just can throw questions at me, or I don't know.
Wow. It would have been great if we had the bandwidth. We could have watched your Moroccan one, reacted to it whilst talking about Algeria. And then when you go to Tunisia, we could do a double episode of that where you react to your this one talking about that one. Yeah, I suppose how was it? How long were you there for?
I was there for 8 days only. It's good, bro. You know these things like just to be able to take a 4 hour flight, be in another country. You know, like a lot of people don't have that. Like I've got a few Australian friends. For them to go, like, for example, there are loads of Turks in Australia, aren't there? And for them to go visit Turkey, that's literally 24 hours of travel, and it costs minimum like $1,000. You know, this brother that works for me, he was in Australia visiting family. He lives in Turkey, and he had to go. He went Australia to Shanghai. He was in Shanghai for like 5 hours at the airport. Then he went. Did he go Shanghai straight to Turkey? He might have even stopped at another place first. So it's just wild. Like he did that in order to save a bit of money. I think a traditional route is like Australia to maybe Singapore or Qatar, Dubai. These are kind of places to stop off, and then you go to Istanbul from there. So alhamdulillah, bro, to be able to just hop on a plane, 4 hours later, you're in the homeland. It's good, alhamdulillah. And it's very smooth process. Like I live right near the airport, so I'm like 20, I would say, okay, let's say 30 minutes. 30 minutes to get to the airport. These days I've been living a bit dangerous. I've been like get to the get to the airport like 90 minutes before the flight, you know, because I'm just like, yeah, things are pretty
Wow, look at
quick and
you.
smooth. Maybe 2 hours, 2 hours 90 minutes, something like that. The Istanbul airport is good. It's close by, and then go through it pretty quick, pretty smooth. I had Shake Shack. I thought, look, let me treat myself. Shake Shack.
Oh,
It was very expensive. You know, the Istanbul airport, like especially the new one. I don't know about Sabiha, but all the prices are mad, very mad over there.
mm.
But look, it's Shake Shack. It's not very often I go to Algeria, so we got to celebrate.
Okay.
So had a Shake Shack, got on the plane, Air Algerie. I took Air Algerie, and it was good. It was a pretty good flight. Then when I landed, it was smooth as well. I think from landing to leaving the airport, it was about 15 minutes, bro. And one of the reasons I
Oh.
think is because I put my luggage on like one of the last, and so it comes out one of the first in it. So
Yep. Yeah.
that's a little hack
Yeah.
for you. Assalamu alaikum. A few years ago, the conversation about masculinity and Islam popped up. And of course, I took a big interest in that. And some of you might know that I actually wrote a whole book on Islamic masculinity. I went to the Quran, I went to the Sunnah, I filtered out the red pill, I filtered out the feminism, and I came down to what a good Muslim man looks like. It's a really good book with tons of stories and examples from the Sahaba, from the Prophet ﷺ, from the other prophets of how to be a good Muslim man. It's entertaining, it's not too long, and I'm offering you the free first chapter. If you click the description below, then I will send that over to you. And then if you want to get the full book, you can get the full book. We also have the audio version. So check it out. See you around. It's called The Shepherd's Way.
Well, traveling alone is always easy, man.
That's true.
It's
That's
always
true.
smooth sailing, isn't it? So,
Yeah. I was thinking like,
uh,
I was sitting on that plane and I was thinking, what if I had the kids with me? What would this be
yeah.
like? And, it would be hard, but alhamdulillah, it's 4 hours. I was thinking actually, what about 10-hour flights, 12-hour flight? Like, that would be quite mad.
Have your not all your kids have gone to Algeria, have they? Before?
None of them have been.
Oh man, they haven't even شموا ريحة التراب, bro. Come on,
Well,
man.
yeah.
I always wonder how many North Africans we have listening. Maybe we should get them
I think we
to.
do attract that crowd a little bit, you know.
I'd like to think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts? How was the last time you went first before this?
It was like 2018, 2017, so like 7 years ago or something.
Okay. Oh, that's quite a bit of time.
It is,
What do you
yeah.
think? How's
It's funny because
society
whenever we talked
changed
about
and improved?
Algeria on previous episodes, you were like, yeah, look, it's been a while, bro. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Don't keep that idea in your head of it's like this and that. I think, bro, this is gonna sound funny, but the things that are different, I could count on one hand.
Really?
So, like for example, the airport. I
Yeah.
landed in Wahran, okay, which is like the second biggest city. It's on the western side of Algeria. I landed in Wahran, and the airport is new, okay, so that was new. Basically, it's still the same location, but they just split the airport out between domestic and international flights. So the international section of the airport, that's all brand new building and everything. So, you know, that was nice, pretty good building. Actually, it looked brand new to me, but apparently it's like 5, 6 years old. So that was good. Everything in the airport was good, and that's new basically. But then once I was out of there, bro, it's actually exactly the same. Like I can't think of anything other than that's different. Like, let me try and think, bro. Like,
You weren't in the capital, I guess, so that's why my perspective is a bit different.
oh, absolutely, exactly. And that's why I kept telling myself, I'm like, look, nothing changed. I'm from a small town, like maybe hundred
Yeah.
thousand people. Like not like a village, but a town. You know, 100,000 people or something. So yeah, maybe it makes sense. Hasn't changed too much. So I kept saying, yeah, bigger city will be different. Bigger city, bigger city. So I actually did go to another city, a bigger city. Like I think it has about 700,000 in it, called Bel Abbas, also in the west. But again, bro, did not notice anything different. The same kind of, how do I say it? Just the same vibe, the same infrastructure, the same problems, the same benefits, everything the same. And so now, because I've been to like a smaller town, I've been to a medium to large city. Now I'm just leaving it all up to the capital. I'm like, okay, well, if something is different significantly, if something has
Yeah.
changed, then it would have changed over there. Yeah, I mean, Wahran is second biggest city. It's a big city. I did not go into Wahran though. We just went to the airport. So I don't know. I don't know Wahran too much to know if it would have changed or not. But I'm just looking for, is there like the development level, you know, you could say. I was just
Yeah.
looking for like, you know, what it's like and stuff. But yeah, bro. So literally I had zero culture shock, zero surprise. I just went.
Yeah.
My cousin, my dad picked me up. We drove home. That was like that. I was like thrown in the deep end a little bit because the road that we took from the airport to the city is a bad road, bro. It's not a good road. So it's like the
Okay.
kind of like, if you know what I mean by the road is, I want to say 200 kilometers, 200 to 250 kilometers. So usually you would do that distance in about an hour and a half or something like that. But it takes 2.5, 2 hours 45 on it. The reason being, the road has a lot of deviations. They're doing road works. Once the sunset, there's no lights on this road. So even though it's quite a big road, like it's it's not the motorway, because you know, I don't know if you know, in Algeria there's the l'autoroute est-ouest, right? Like east to west, big 4 lanes in each direction road that they built. It's not that road, but it's still 2 lanes in each direction. But there's no lights on it. There's no lighting. So at nighttime, you got to kind of drive slowly. You could drive like maybe 70, 80 kilometers an hour, which is pretty slow for that kind of road and that kind of distance. So instead of taking like maybe an hour and a half, it takes 2.5, 2 hours 45. And you know, like this is my memories of Algeria. Is just I don't know if it's just that's how people talk between themselves normally, or it's because I'm there, you know, someone who doesn't live there, if they bring it up because of that.
Yeah.
But like, they're just like talking about the problems of this road, how many accidents happen on this road, because either you have to drive very slow to be careful, or you drive full speed, and then a lot of accidents happen because of the lack of lighting. You can't really see far ahead. All of a sudden, imagine you're driving pretty fast. All of a sudden, there's just a roundabout with no warning. And then my cousin was like, yeah, someone like a distant relative, he drove straight into that roundabout and he died. Allah yarham. So you just you just get straight into it, basically, bro.
I love it,
but
I love it.
Like it's difficult for me to. This is what it is, bro. I'm a bit conflicted here because I don't want to say Algeria is a bad place, but there's so much. In my experience, there's so much discussion of problems when I'm with my family and stuff that it just like embeds itself in my head, you know, like all the problems.
Yeah.
And so like I don't want to like give off that like very negative thing. Like there are a lot of good things about Algeria. Maybe that's what I should talk about. Maybe we should talk about the good things. Maybe we should talk about the fact that, for example, I have a lot of cousins that have kids who are like, you know, 7, 8, 9, even 12, 13 years old. And I didn't see a big impact of like TikTok or anything on these kids, you know. They are using phones here and there, but you know, I didn't see that impact. You know what I mean? I didn't see like phone addiction. I didn't see like TikTok scroll, like what the hell are you watching kind of thing. I didn't see that. I didn't see it in the tarbiyah, the way they behave, the way they respect their parents or uncles, aunts. I didn't see that. Even, was it? Oh yeah, because my brother came as well, and my brother, like, when he was getting on the plane, he took a photo of the pilot. The pilot was like leaning out the window. Imagine the cockpit. She was leaning out the window and like trying to clean the windscreen, and he's like, "Bro, what's going on here? Like, I'm about to get on this plane."
I love it. Love it.
But this wasn't even Air Algeria, by the way. This was like French airline or something.
Yeah.
So he's like,
it's still, the thing is, go on.
I'm saying this to say that my brother was like just talking about that generally, and then my cousin's son, he's like, oh, do women drive planes? Like, what's up with that? Like, so it was novel to him. So that's what the point I'm making is they didn't seem to be exposed to these like modern ideas, you could say. And then like, what kind of things are they doing? Because it's like summer holiday, they have like Quran kind of camps. They go to the masjid, they memorize Quran. You know, again, this is my family, right? I know there are plenty of, you know, you could say bad families or not so in touch with Islam families, but in my family, like, yeah, the level of Islam is good. When I see like the 12, 13-year-old girls in my family, like, yeah, most of them are wearing hijab and stuff, you know? So these things are good. These things are nice.
And there's still, I'm sure, like hishma and respect and, you know, do's and don'ts that are just embedded within society that you don't even need to think about. It's the stuff actually that you're not. Basically, when I'm in Tunis, bro, and I'm sure you feel it with well, because you're in Turkey, it's a little different. But I'm sure if you were in England and then went, you'd feel this sense of like raha, you know, a bit of relaxation at the back of your mind that you kind of be yourself without having to have this guard up, without having to like measure your discourse with people and just put on that, not a facade, but like that persona almost of like, oh, I'm a happy, friendly, bumbly Muslim. Yes, you know what I mean? Like trying to be that guy in terms of like constant. It's almost like constant dawah because it is really, isn't it?
Okay, I don't really relate to that, I suppose. Yeah, I don't feel that.
Because, I think maybe because you are in a Muslim country and you've been so for a while.
Yeah,
but you do sometimes have that in North Africa. You do sometimes, you know.
Well, yeah, because if you've got a beard, you've got to after
it's less so.
Yeah, it's much less so because in the end, it's like, look, you're Muslim, I'm Muslim. Like, if you have a bad opinion of a beard, that's your problem, bro. You have enough access to knowledge and this and that to know that the sunnah is the sunnah.
But even the most, look, even the most like, I don't want to make, you know. Even the most, I don't know, lax Muslim in Algeria, for example, who doesn't appear to be practicing, their language and the lingo they use is going to be so peppered with Islamic phrases anyway. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, etc. Assalamu alaikum, whatever.
Yeah.
That here is a bit of a novelty. Like someone says salam to you in the UK, you're like, oh, Muslim, and actively Muslim or aware that that's how we greet each other. Because I've
Yeah.
worked with Muslims before, just like hello,
Yeah.
morning, you know what I mean, completely detached.
Mo.
Do you understand? Yeah, honestly. So I've had that before. So the moment someone says salam to you, you're like, oh, you must be a practicing Muslim. It's kind of, we see eye to eye.
Yeah.
In Tunis, in Zaire, whatever, everybody's going to have that language peppered within, unless
Yeah.
you've got someone who's really mentally colonized and is like everything is French and
Yeah.
everything they say is French,
That's the
right?
funny thing, bro. Like
Um,
on the way out of Algeria, it's like you go to the airport. The airports are like a different place, isn't it? Because you just got these people that are like, and obviously the type of people who are traveling are a certain type as well. And you got these people who are like just purely speaking French. They're like born and raised in Algeria. They're like, you could say
yeah,
more Algerian than me, but it's like they're
yeah.
just fully speaking French. It's just so weird. And I have only ever seen that in the airport, you know? So it must be like specific neighborhoods in specific cities where these people live.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of pushback on that kind of personality, I suppose, on North African social media. I've seen so many like reels and stuff making fun of those kind of people from they're in North Africa, and like there's this Tunisian influencer who just makes fun of those people all the time.
Right.
Because I think people are starting to have a bit more fakhr and a bit more pride in their heritage, especially with what's going on. Like when you see, what's taking place in the world, especially in Gaza, there is definitely this kind of unification and recognition of Islamic identity and Arab identity, I suppose, for the Arabs that are out there,
Yeah.
and pushback of Western values and Western norms and the hypocrisy and stuff. So
Yeah.
that comes along with it, and I think it'll only grow a bit in the
Yeah.
as time goes, and as our countries, do improve,
Yeah.
which is inevitable. I mean, I know you said the improvements are like you can count them on your finger, but there's always peaks and troughs, isn't there? And I think we're approaching
Yeah.
maybe a time of improvement, bi'idhnillah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I don't
so
know with Algeria. Yeah,
go on.
go on. What
No,
would I want?
I was just going to say, what would you say to someone who maybe is Algerian? Because we
Yeah.
mentioned a little bit of this in the group chat, the
Yeah.
Telegram group, about
Yeah.
like dual nationals.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are plenty of Algerians that don't have any connection. I know you mentioned these people that are like born in Algeria but speak French, but there
Yeah.
are a lot of like diaspora Algerians who actually have no connection to Algeria at all. They might
Yeah.
have never been. They don't even have passports. They don't have. Would you say? Would you encourage them to actually go on that discovery process and try and reconnect and maybe, you know, see what they might be missing or craving in the West? They might find over there.
The best thing I can say about that, bro, is that I would say when I think of my childhood and I think of the things that caused me to develop, okay, you've got stuff like karate. I did karate for a few years. I did rugby for a few years, like training multiple times a week, competitions, everything. I did, what do they call it in the UK? There's an international version which is called the International Youth Award. And then in the UK, they call it Duke of Edinburgh. So this is
Oh
like
yeah.
something where you have to do like four different things. You have to do a sport, some sort of hobby or skill development thing. You have to do volunteering,
Hmm.
and you have to do a trek. And there's different levels: bronze, silver, gold, etc. So I did that when I was in school as well, and that included doing a 55-kilometer trek up a mountain in Thailand, which was,
Wow.
a great experience as a 15, 16-year-old. However, probably on top of all these different experiences, alhamdulillah, as well as living in the UAE with all different people around me, etc., the thing that developed me the most is going to Algeria and like
Mm.
going regularly to Algeria. So I went, I think the first time I went, I was about 11, and I went like every year until I was, who knows, maybe 19 or I don't know. So that was the biggest, development for me as a person, as a character. And I would say like it makes up a huge part of who I am now. And I don't mean like it made me take on Algerian culture. Okay, yeah, maybe partly. But I just mean the development of navigating a new country, a new culture, a country that is not that easy to navigate, as someone who's not born and raised there. It's not easy. Like UK is
Yeah.
extremely easy. That's one thing, by the way. When I went to the UK, like after living in the UAE like most of my life, and I went to the UK to live on my own in London and study and stuff, that was actually a shock to me at how easy everything is made in the UK. Everything has a sign. Everything has instructions. Everything has a helpline. It's very, very
Right.
facilitated and easy. Algeria is kind of the opposite. Turkey's a little bit like that as well. It's like, no, nothing is explained to you. You just know because you're born and raised here, right? That's like the assumption.
Mm.
So going there and navigating that, for example, the first time I went to Algeria, I didn't go with my parents. It was just me and my siblings. We went, we didn't know much Arabic whatsoever. And that was it, thrown in the deep end. And so you just have to, bro, your character has to develop. You have to sink or swim, you know? So that's one thing, is the development you'll get out of it, the identity you'll find in it, the history, the this and that, the understanding of other people's psychology, their mental state, the opportunities, you know, open up opportunities in your mind. It's amazing, bro. It's really amazing. And I would say that for any country, like if I went now and I lived
Yeah.
for a year in China, I'm sure I would also develop. But when it's, you know, your country, you have a bit more incentive and a bit more commitment to invest in learning the tricks of the trade and the, you know, the way things work over there. And hopefully you would have family as well that can kind of show you around and stuff. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, it's pretty amazing, man. And look, like after getting like that kind of update for myself, going recently after 7 years, you know, it's a place I can live. It's not a place would be my first choice to live. Maybe the capital's different, so I'm open to that.
Yeah.
But I definitely kind of, after realizing, okay, it hasn't changed too much and this and that, like, yeah, I think there would be a lot of compromises for me to live there. So I would not like have it as my top choice, but I can live
Yeah.
there. I can live there. I've got
Yeah.
citizenship, and if I needed to, I can live there, you know? So, yeah, definitely something
You think?
to do. And something that we mentioned in the chat as well in the group is
Yeah.
that I literally see it as an asset or an investment to get a citizenship. It's an investment. So like if you think of buying a house or buying land or buying, I don't know, gold, it's the same thing. This asset, it can increase in value over time. The difference
100%.
is though that money can't buy a lot of citizenships, right? So when you think about something that might increase in value over time, and then you think of you not getting it and therefore your kids not being able to get it, that that makes you realize that it would be dumb not to get it and then cut that off from your kids or your grandkids. So
Yeah.
think of it
Yeah.
like that, really, as an asset. You know, in this globalized world, which has maybe reached peak globalization, it will be increasingly, assuming that it's going to follow a trajectory of less globalization and more like national isolation or whatever, it will be more and more valuable for you to have different citizenships. And there are people out there, like some people I follow in business, they are American and they are actively seeking to get multiple citizenships
Yeah.
wherever possible. The thing with them though is,
Passport bros.
yeah, passport, bro. Yeah. The thing with them though is they have to buy these citizenships, you know, and you can't buy Algerian citizenship, right? Unless maybe you find some sort of Rashwa link, bribery kind of thing. But it's very hard to get Algerian citizenship or maybe Pakistani citizenship or whatever it is. So these guys are spending millions of dollars sometimes to get it. You could get it. Okay, you might have to pay with a few weeks of work and headache, but once it's done,
but
it's done.
and you know, a lot. I mean, Algerian embassy, for example, in the UK is a lot more. Uh, what do I want to say? Progressive, maybe, than the Tunisian one, for example.
Is it?
And
Yeah.
I know that just by comparing what my in-laws do. You know, they can go online and do all sorts of stuff online. My one like has a Facebook page. Uh, has a WhatsApp number. They never pick up a phone. They don't pick up. So I always have to drive there just to get anything done. But I've done it so many times now that like they know me, I know them. Um, you know, and my father, like you said, bro. My father was of that belief. Like as soon as my child was born, he's like, "When are you going to the embassy?" You know. So it was like ingrained in us to always have our paperwork sorted out, and it's absolutely an asset because people need to realize. And a lot of Muslims that have the capacity for dual nationalities, and this goes beyond just North Africa. This I see a lot with Asian, like the Asian community, Pakistan, Bangladesh, just absolutely zero contact with that. Not all of them, obviously, but zero kind of intention to kind of get that paperwork or get that nationality sorted out. But the way the world isn't, the way the status quo isn't going to be the way it is forever. Like things can change overnight. Things can change. Well, like look what happened in France recently, right? The right wing, whatever, almost won. Okay.
Yeah.
Muslims were very worried there. They were very concerned about what that could mean for them and their livelihoods there. And a lot of them were talking about going back to wherever they came from, because if it becomes, terrible to live there. Yet I know of many stories of French Tunisians that don't have any connection to Tunisia whatsoever, just never really considered, going back. And when they do, when you do speak to them about it, and I'm not talking me, but I've heard, it's just all French. There's no Arabic whatsoever. Like it's completely disconnected. Yet, they are very proud of being Tunisian. It's just oxymoron. They're very proud of like being different. They're very proud of waving that flag, and this goes across the board. You speak to your average ethnic minority, very proud of where I'm from. Oh, I'm Jamaican, or I'm Saudi, or I'm Algerian, whatever. But then ask them about how much they visit. Is it just a tourist kind of thing? Do you visit as a tourist, or do you visit with the intention of being one of the people, so to speak?
Yeah.
And it's few and far between. And a lot of people that talk about hijrah or talk about escaping, they talk about UAE, they talk about Saudi, they talk about the Gulf. But that's only ever temporary. I mean, you would know that yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a long-term solution unless you're constantly churning that wheel one day, and especially for your kids. When you have kids, you start realizing, oh, actually, I need something a bit more long-term here.
I'll tell you
I
something
keep
about
hammering it home.
UAE.
I try and hammer it home.
I know a lot
Huh?
of people that, I'll tell you something about UAE. I know a lot of people that spent a long time in the UAE, 5, 10, 20 years. And there is a bit of a pattern in terms of children that were raised in the UAE. They often struggle in life, bro, to be honest. They struggle. Once they leave that country, they have to leave, whether it's for studies. A lot of them, when it comes to uni age, they would go and study elsewhere, right? So unless you can live your whole life in UAE, so you go uni in UAE and then you end up finding a job in UAE and all of that, even then you're always at risk of having to leave and go to another country. And that's what I'm saying. The pattern is that once they leave UAE, the UAE is a bubble, bro. It's a very specific type of bubble. And when you have to leave UAE, you struggle elsewhere because certain things are just different or just easier or whatever in UAE. And it's tough elsewhere. And I've seen it, bro. I've seen a lot of people like my age, a bit older than me, a bit younger than me. Once they leave, some of them go back to the West, some of them have to go back to the Arab country or whatever. They struggle. They struggle a lot.
It's
It's
that, it's the idea of the retirement plan, right? I mean, I've got cousins that were born, they're all born in the UK, but then went back to the UAE, like, straight after they were born. Because that's where my uncle, my auntie live, and now they're at university age. So I think all of them, well, two of them are. The third youngest is due to start, I think, in September. And anyway, the girls came to the UK to do university because we've got family here and everybody's here. The oldest, my cousin, I think he went to America. And it can't be easy whatsoever. They don't even have sidewalks in the UAE. You got to drive everywhere.
yeah.
Sidewalk, and you're like, whoa, what's that? No. But yeah, man, the retirement plan, I was going to say, like, where do you envision yourself retiring? And like, actually, that's a question for you. Where do you envision yourself when you can no longer, I mean, not say no longer walk, but work, sorry. But let's say you do get old and you want to settle down. Where is that going to be? Because I don't think it's going to be the UAE, and I don't think it's going to be the UK. And I'd probably think that at that age, you're going to want to be in Algeria, bro. That's what I think. The only downside is the health care system. But other than that, that's where a lot of North Africans say they want to retire,
Yeah, that's why they
even
all
though they
build
might not have any
houses there
connection.
and stuff. And then, they have these
Yeah, I mean,
dreams that their kids are going to use the houses or whatever. And I don't know.
yeah,
You know what? UAE is a decent place to retire if you have a lot of money. Then it'll be very comfortable and chill and
well,
stuff. Algeria as well, because once you're on the older side, I think there's less that you want to be doing, that you need to be doing. And so you don't have to interact with
100%.
these annoying systems in Algeria so much. So it might be nice to to retire over there. Me personally, bro, I don't know. I don't see myself like that. This concept of retiring, I don't want it. I'm not interested. I want to,
Really?
I just want to keep going until I physically can't do it. And therefore I'm going to have to be in a place where I can do it, where I can work, I can get stuff done.
Bro,
That's how I see
well, that's
myself.
what I mean when I say retiring. I don't mean like, oh, I reach an age and I stop. I mean like when you physically can't anymore, where when your body retires, so to speak. Like
Right.
where you gonna be.
Assalamu alaikum. Ameen popping in here just to mention the 4 things that were pillars of Alhamdulillah the success that I've had so far. One is coaching and mentorship. That's having people who are a little bit ahead of me in life guide me and make me really question the next moves I'm doing and whether I'm truly committed to my actions. Number 2 is accountability. Having somebody check in on me and make sure that I'm doing what I said I would do every week. The third thing is brotherhood and good support. You know, they say that you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So having good people around you. And number 4 is purely having that drive, that hunger, that mindset of driving myself forward and becoming above average, making sure that my ambitions and my reality and my work rate are in line with each other. And these are the 4 things that I've combined in my Muslim men's community, the front row. If that sounds interesting to you, if you're looking to crush your goals this year and really become that average and really become that above average person, then click on the link in the description and you can join the waitlist to find out when it opens next. See you around. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yes, of course, Algeria is always an option. Bro, Algeria is like, I don't want to say what my plan B is, but Algeria is my plan C, okay? So,
Wow.
so yeah, for sure,
If
bro.
Bourne could
For
hear you
sure.
now, bro, man, he'd be upset.
Yeah, they call
You
him,
wait, bro.
they call him Amita
I think you.
Boone.
I think you still like. I know this goes to everybody in the West. I think your standard of living, obviously in the West, is very high and, like you mentioned, very easy to navigate, etc. I think for anyone, it really does make sense to go to the capital of any country that they're from, only because you will find everything that you have here. You will find it there. It might not be the same. It might not be, up to the same standard in many places. However, 9 times out of 10, the things that you're looking for are there. There are some areas in I mean, when I was in the capital, bro, I was like, there was this road that was coming. I can't explain it very well, but I was driving down it, and my father-in-law was like, "Oh, this is where a lot of like police and Alaska kind of live, this area," and it looked like San Francisco, bro. It was like this windy road and like all these villas on the side and stuff, and I was like, "Oh," so it just made me think, yeah,
Bad
there's places like
company.
this in Tunisia. There's places like this in every country,
Yeah.
bro. I've seen like, I don't want to make comments about countries. Actually, every country, their capitals have these very well built up areas, and they're not necessarily out of reach for a lot of Western Muslims that can save that money, make that money, and invest back home. They're really not.
Bro,
If
Algeria
they
is
really,
very
knuckle
cheap.
down.
Algeria is very
Sorry?
cheap. Algeria is very cheap.
Yeah,
Extremely cheap.
yeah,
Cheaper than I even remember or expected. So for example, this is not in the capital, okay, but you can rent, it's crazy just to say it. So this is from real people who are paying real rent, okay? You can pay like, you can get not an apartment, you can get like a house, maybe like 3-bedroom house, pretty spacious, for £75 a month.
yeah.
So that's what
That's
we're talking
incredible.
about. Yeah. And then obviously food and this and that is also cheap. A lot of it is grown there and stuff. One thing that's
Yeah.
very incredibly expensive is clothing. Clothing is
Really?
nuts,
Okay.
nuts, bro. My brother bought abaya for like a wedding, so like a nice one, yani. Bro,
Yeah.
it's nearly the same price as rent. Imagine in the UK, you pay £800 for rent, and then you buy an abaya for
Yeah.
£800. Can you, bro, it's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
Yeah.
this quality is not even good, okay? And then
Yeah.
you're charging that much. And I don't know how it works, like how did it get to that point? But it's just everywhere. It's not like, oh yeah, this guy's just hiking the price up. No, all the prices are like that for clothing. It's nuts.
Yeah, you'll find outliers like that. I mean, vehicles, we've already spoke about vehicles. Let's not go over that again, but
Yeah,
vehicles are really expensive
yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
But,
Cars are high,
it
yeah.
does look, you need to also assess your kind of personality. And I think you are definitely someone who, you know, is busy and keeps busy. And there are people, maybe more so myself, that don't mind the slow life. Like, I live in the village in Tunisia, and I live in the middle of nowhere, and I just love it. I honestly love it. I just,
Yeah.
give me, as long as I've got the internet connection for just to keep in touch with people and keep in touch with the world and get some work done,
Yeah.
that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
my wife and kids maybe not so much. They probably need more activities and more things. So, and obviously, it's they're not, they haven't got that connection like I've got, right? And my wife was also from the capital in Algeria, so there's a different kind of understanding of what back
Yeah.
home looks like.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and everybody needs to assess that. But I've seen brothers that, Hamdan Dalusi, for example. I know he spends time in Mauritania, and he shows a few videos of where he is in Mauritania, and it really does look like the middle of nowhere. However,
Yeah.
the house he has is quite nice. It's quite clean,
Yeah.
um, and that just shows you, like, one thing that is actually quite surprising is that they generally have decent internet access in most North African countries, or most countries now in general. It might not be like wired broadband, etc., but generally it was all SIM card based for a lot of them. Um, and with that, you've got access to a lot. Maybe that's just my only kind of desire, because food is always great. Don't have to worry about food. We spoke about housing. Housing is, you know, it's on the cheaper end if you've got that earning power. So you can actually get something quite nice with the pounds and the dollars and the euros that you might be earning or saved. Um, or even building something. Like, I've got a friend who's Libyan, and he grew up. He's half English, so he grew up with that kind of, he's very proud Libyan. He won't mind me saying this, but when you're half, you've got that kind of a half kind of connection where you don't always go all together as a family all the time, or whatever it may be, right? But despite all of that, and despite that upbringing, he is now super active and linked with Libya. He's bought real estate there. He's trying to manage real estate there. Even though if you'd look at him, you wouldn't be able to tell. He looks very, very English, right? And it just shows, like, he's seen that, he's investing in that, and maybe one day he'll want to move there. And I'm sure that's something that he's interested in. Um, my father likewise. I think going back to what you said at the beginning, it's an asset, it's an investment. It might be something that you get to really enjoy in your lifetime, but I'm very sure that if you can keep that connection with your kids and make them fall in love with it too, um, it's definitely going to be something they're going to capitalize on. It's going to be so much harder though for our children, because you know teaching them. I mean, I think you yourself, do you speak much of a Derja at home?
No,
I
right now
assume
we're
maybe.
just doing Fusha, but then at some point we'll
So
switch.
yeah, just one day turn the button on
Yeah. I mean,
the Derja now.
like I give more importance to Fusha, and once you have Fusha, you could learn Derja easily. But yeah, when they start going to Algeria, then they'll pick it up. So it'll kind of be like a third language for them and stuff. So yeah, inshallah.
Yeah, it's hard because we're that generation that is still, our parents were born there, so it's still very easy for us. And I mean, subhanAllah, my kids are they love Morocco because they went there, like Suleiman went recently. They like Tunis. They have that connection and that pride, alhamdulillah, where they're from so far. And I'd like to keep that going and nourish that. But
Yeah.
I do worry sometimes, like, the disconnect is actually quite a big gap. There is a big gap between me and my dad. Yeah, I'm still pushing through because of circumstances. I don't know how well my son would fare, even Suleiman. Like, how would he fare in Tunis unless I am able to go all the time with him, which at the moment is quite difficult to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what my plan is. Like, at least once a year, I'm gonna go with the kids, obviously. At least once a year,
Yeah,
maybe even twice. Who knows? But it is a bit pricey, to be honest. But yeah, once or twice a year, inshallah. Yeah, definitely.
it worked
And
for us, I
the the,
suppose. Yeah,
the, the way I'm thinking is, if I went from age 11 onwards, what if I went from age 3, 4, 5 onwards? Like, I think it would be very different. I would pick up the language much better. I would be much more fluent. I'll be much more like, have much more memories as a child there and this and that. So yeah, it's looking good. But yeah, so just to go back to the cost, Like yeah,
Yeah.
like a teacher, like an experienced school teacher in Algeria probably earns about two to £300, £200 to £300 a month, and they could live like, and because it's a government job, like it's well paid, like better than average. But yeah, you could
Yeah.
live definitely middle class with £200 to £300, at least outside of the capital anyway. So yeah, just to give people an idea. Yeah, and yeah, you know, you were saying like you went. I know you went to like the capital. You went to like that whole. I think you went like Tizi Ouzou area as well.
Yeah. So I did a bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was thinking about you, bro, when I was there because I was trying to like, I was trying to imagine what it would be actually like for me to live in Algeria. And I was struggling to
Yeah.
like try and conceptualize it. And then I was thinking like, you speak very highly of Algeria, and I was thinking, yeah, I think that's why, because you would love that. You would love, like, I could just imagine you, bro, like Tizi Ouzou in the mountains with the greenery and just like living that village life. Like, yes,
I was
like,
really ill when I went there, to be honest. But I that isn't unfamiliar to me. Although the altitude is, I do visit those kind of areas in Tunisia.
yeah,
Because it's the same mountain range, really. It just extends along.
mm,
That same mountain range is where my grandmother's from, actually,
mm,
but in the Tunisian side.
mm,
But yeah, I appreciate that area. Like, it's interesting because a lot of experiences that we have, and a lot of experiences that diaspora has, is those summer holidays of like not doing much, going to the beach,
yeah, not doing
swimming,
much. That's a
whatever,
big thing.
tourism, yeah,
Yeah,
lazing around,
yeah,
that kind of thing. And I think as we get older, there is a bit of nostalgia for that.
mm,
Definitely. I think a lot of diaspora have that nostalgia. You follow any sort of like diasporic kind of social media page about that stuff, and we all share the same experiences because they'll post memes about that kind of experience of all getting on the car and traveling across France and making that kind of hijra journey with all our stuff just for a holiday, right? I was like, oh, I thought that was just us. No, it turns out everybody used to do that.
yeah,
I speak to my wife; they did it as well. So it's like a very North African experience to do so. And yes, you get nostalgia for that, and it's you have to kind of cut between you know my experiences as a tourist and my experiences living there. Like, would
yeah,
it be the same?
yes, exactly.
um and it's I tell you why now. I'd like to think I've shifted with a bit more realism about my experiences in it is because I shifted from visiting for family and friends and holidays to bureaucracy and actually doing the stuff that my dad had to do when he lived there. And now that I go, apart from like a Saturday or a Sunday where everything's shut, every day of the week, I've got an appointment, I've got somewhere to go, I've got paperwork to get, I've got, and I've turned into one of them. When there's that massive queue outside the post office, I'm in there as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
When
yeah,
there's like a queue outside the bank, yep, you'll find me there too. When they're fighting over a taxi, I'm here as well, trying to. I spoke about that as well. Like, I've seen the depths of difficulty that people have to go to do certain
yeah,
things, despite the fact that I am still very privileged.
yeah,
When things get hard, maybe I can afford to go and rent a car, which people would only do for a wedding. You know, um, but the reason I focus so much on back home, is because I don't think our back home countries are going to grow unless we also spending our money there. We are also an asset to them as much as we see them as an asset to us in terms of like an escape plan, right? Our finances are a bit our spending power, etc. If I want to invest anywhere, I don't want to invest somewhere that I might not even stay, like UAE, for example, Khalij. Like, I might not ever get a citizenship. I might be spending my money there, but I'd rather spend it somewhere where it may remain, spend it somewhere where it may benefit, and spend it somewhere where actually my children will have access to in the future, um, and be part of that kind of growth. Because I do love where I'm from, and I think we all do to a certain extent. And it'd be nice to be part of I mean, we used to say all the time about our village in Tunisia. My mum says it, I've said it, even my wife. It's like, oh, there's certain places that really could do with some renovation. I would love to renovate that when I live here. There's like this what do they call it? There's they call it a zawiya. Don't know if you use that word. It's basically where they used to teach Quran back in the
yeah,
old
yeah.
days. So it
Zaria,
could be
yeah.
like a little mud hut or whatever. There's like this, you know, decrepit, old, falling apart zawiya in a field somewhere near us that nobody uses. And I've always walked past and I thought, do you know what? I'd love to just put some money and just make that into something. Just
Yeah.
renovate it, go and buy your go and build it. I don't even have to own it. I'm not going to own it. I just fix it. And then, oh, look, this area could really do with a cleanup. I would love to put some money together, and these kind of ideas and projects that we see being done elsewhere by charity organizations, by whatever, this is the sort of stuff we could be part of that change. You spoke about how there's so much that needs developing. We could be part of that. We really could. We could really be people that come and not just as tourists take what we want and leave, but actually reinvest and
Yeah.
reinvigorate and be part of that
100%.
change bit in there.
100%. Yeah. I see that as well. I see those kind of opportunities. You have to be tough for that. You do have to be tough for that. Like, I don't know if you know, like Rashid Nakaz.
Nope.
Rashid Nakaz is that famous guy that everyone has heard of, who, when they said in France there'll be a fine on women for wearing niqab, he said, I'll pay the fine.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
guy,
I've seen
okay?
him, yeah.
So he's Algerian, but he's like born and raised in France, or at least raised in France. He's very French, Ali. He basically, he did that whole I'll pay the fines thing, but then he got into Algerian politics and he was like trying to, bring a change. And he was like this guy from the outside who has this energy of like renewal and energy and okay, let's sort these things out. Bro, they just destroyed him, bro. Like he was,
yeah.
he was, in the end, I don't know, he might even be in jail right now. He
Oh, no.
sacrificed a lot, bro. I believe he gave up his French citizenship. I think he had to do that to run for president or something like that. And
He flew too close to the sun, bro.
yeah, and he had all this energy of let's do this and let's do that, and he just got he got he got destroyed. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
You got to be
interested
tough,
in getting into. Wouldn't be interested in getting in the politics side of thing. But there's so much like locally. I'm sure you've seen it as well. Just local.
But
people
even that,
you've
it's
seen.
like, you know what it is, bro? And this is one of the things I was thinking about. Like, okay, I could go and chill in like a village, or I could chill in Algeria and I would be fine. But I don't want to chill. And that's where, for example, if I don't want to chill and I want to work, then to be honest, bro, most people in Algeria are not workers, they're chillers. So imagine you're trying to work and you're surrounded by chillers. So that's difficult, isn't it? So that's what I'm saying. You're going to need to bring that energy, and you're going to need that enthusiasm to keep going and not get dragged down by people who either they're just lazy, or the society and the setup in the country has driven them to become passive, where they're just like, they have that mindset of like, yeah, nothing can change, nothing changes, and so I'm just become a passive person. You need to drag those people with you, because nothing gets done on your own. Even if you come with money,
Wallahi.
you need people to do whatever you need to do in exchange for that money. Sometimes you're paying someone, you need to still push them and motivate them. So
Yeah, you have to. Like anyone you get for work, you need to stand over him and watch him
والله
as he
yeah.
does it.
وتجيب له الفطور وتجيب له القهوة وكل شيء.
And then they just, midday, that's it, I'm going home.
Yeah. So this is
You know what?
what
There's
I
this
mean.
clip.
Man.
Sorry, there's this clip. I can't. I wish I could find it and show you at the moment. But the Tunisian president Qais Said, he goes to Hammam Lemf, which is this beach town in Tunisia. Goes there, and I think he might be talking to the mayor or somebody in charge, right? And he's looking at the beach. He's like, "What the hell is this? Like, why is there rubbish everywhere? Why can't you tidy it up?" And the mayor guy is like, "Oh, but there's this and there's that," like making all these excuses. And he's like, "No, I don't care. Like, this should be sorted out." Obviously, it could be like it because he's going for re-election soon, so it could be like an election strategy. He's going around all these places. Anyway, bro, I saw on Twitter the next day there's this commune basically going down and cleaning up the whole beach, and then all the comments are in French, and they're like, "Why does the president have to come down to the beach and tell someone off just for them to clean it up? Like this could have been done the day before he came. This could have been done in general." And there is that attitude of like, there's a very minimal accountability, and I'd love to know what it is. I've heard when I was there, there's a lot of red tape with everything, because I experienced this myself. you can't go and get one thing done at one place. Okay? Everybody, there's like a lot of idarat that have to check each other, and it's like they're accountable to each other. So you have to like go to 3 places to get one thing done. You have to go like, I don't know, like I had a property deed or like, what was it, like a power of attorney thing I had to sign, for example.
You have to go like notary, land registry, police.
Yeah, so I had to exactly. So I had to go to the council to register that I'm, thinking for this. But before I do that, I have to go to the court so they can see. And then before I do that, I have to go to the tax man, who then signs it. Like there's a stamp from each place, but each place has a queue. I don't know how anyone who works 9 to 5 in these countries gets anything done, because you'll have to book a holiday to do anything.
Bro, no one works 9 to 5.
Yeah, but well, you know what you know what I'm trying to say though.
Yeah.
Although you say that, like my cousin works in that's the thing. Like you do see people in cafes lazing around and stuff. When you do speak to people with actual jobs,
Yeah.
like some of my family members,
Yeah.
they are constantly working.
Yeah.
Like my cousin works in the electric company or whatever, UK Power, similar one here. And he was like doing overtime. They were calling him when anything would happen. He was working his whole shift.
Yeah.
He'd get home really late. He'd have to go to work really early. My other family member, he works in like Idara Dakhiliya, so you can imagine
interior,
national security kind of stuff. And he's got like a proper job, suited and booted, and you go and see him working in his, people that work in banks, they're proper jobs. They go in the morning, they come at the afternoon. People that work in a post office, same thing. So there is people that do work proper jobs, teachers, for example. But then there, like you said, there are people that work maybe buying and selling, and it's a bit more sporadic. There are people working building work, a bit more sporadic. People that do trade, a bit more sporadic. And those are the ones you generally see. Obviously, there's people that don't work at all. Rural areas as well, it depends on the season. It depends on when they're going to harvest. It depends on when they're going to plant crops. So you'll see a lot of people waiting for that kind of period.
Yeah.
So you will see a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it is very difficult for those individuals who are going to be living there in a traditional work sense. So we're talking about diaspora that may go there and think, I'm going to get a job there.
Oh, that's tough,
as
bro.
Opposed to I'm going to work for myself.
My cousin married someone who was born and raised in Canada. Sorry, no, he was born in Algeria, but then when he was young, he moved to Canada. He lived in Canada till he's like 40. And then he moved to Algeria and he married my cousin, okay? So he works as a professor or something. Bro, he was telling me it is tough. He's like, I'm still not used to it. I still really struggle. But he's like, literally, I did it fi sabilillah. I knew I wanted to move to a Muslim country, live amongst Muslims, have a family in Muslim country. So, Allah yajzi khair. But yeah, he was saying it was pretty tough. And because he's got like a job, a normal job there, yani. But one thing
I'd be able to.
I think a good kind of thing to highlight, or a good example of how things work in not just Algeria, like many countries, is for example, the autoroute, the motorway I was telling you about, right? So it's a very big motorway, big project that was being done in Algeria. So Algeria is the biggest country in Africa. So from east to west, this road, it's 1,200 kilometers approximately. So building that, it would transform the country, right? You'll be able to drive a lot faster, get places a lot quicker, and all of that. This road took, I know it's a big road, but it took 17 years from beginning to end of building it.
Yeah.
And then the budget, I can't remember what the budget was for it, but when I asked ChatGPT, like approximately how much would that kind of thing cost in a developing country, blah, 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 it said $1.5 to $6 billion. Okay. So how much did they spend on it? Because it is pretty much finished now. They spent $15 billion on it. Okay. So like nearly triple what it should cost on the higher end. And then after all that, okay, 17 years, $15 billion. What's the result? You're driving on the road. Let's say you're going like 120 kilometers an hour, and you hit bumps. Like the road, it has dips in it. And if you hit that dip at a high speed, you could like flip the car, you could turn into like this happened, right? You can see marks on the road where cars have hit a bump, they've slipped and they've driven into that middle thing between the directions. So it's dangerous, bro. And so like I told it was my cousin's husband, I was telling him like, yeah, because we went to this wedding in another city. I was like, yeah, we took the motorway and it was like pretty good actually, you know, it's like pretty new and 3 lanes each direction, 3-4 lanes. He's like, did you notice the bumps? He's like, it's crazy. Then he started like ruining my positivity. he's like telling me about how much it cost and how there's bumps and people crash on these bumps. I'm like, this is a good example, right? Because you could imagine how that happened. So on the top level, so the government would have said, yes, we're going to do this project. We're going to put aside this much money. Of course, they're going to give the contract probably to people they know. Obviously, the whole corruption, nepotism thing. Oh, I'll give the contract to my cousin who's got a construction company, even though he's not the best guy to do it. And he will say,
he opened it yesterday.
Yeah, and he'll be like, yeah, it costs $5 billion, but he's gonna take $2 billion for himself. So now he's like trying to save money by only spending $3 billion on it and all that. And then, so that's one level of it, right? The top level where it's like, yeah, I'm going to give it to you, even though you're probably not going to do a good job. And then that guy is going to take his, slice of the money just for himself purely. And then there's no accountability on that top level, right? But then when it goes to the bottom levels as well, there's no accountability in terms of like everyday people doing the job on the thing, but also the guy, I can see it now, yeah, because I've seen people doing work. The guy actually building the road, right? You could say the low level guy is not getting paid much. Even him, you could imagine how these bumps happen. He's just not bothered, bro. He just like doing the minimum just to get it done. Then his manager would probably not even, he'd be like, yeah, it's approximately right. Like, okay, let's move on, Yanni. And so you can see how top level, there's corruption, there's lack of accountability. And bottom level, there's a lack of ihsan, there's a lack of accountability as well. There's a lack of work ethic. And so when you multiply that across the whole country, that's what you get, bro. And this is despite having money. Right? So yeah, even though you have money, Algeria has plenty of money, but you can't buy work ethic. You can't buy accountability. You can't buy ihsan. And this is the big thing that's lacking. And so some people, they like to blame the government fully. And some people have started to realize, okay, no, look, like the people also messed up sometimes. But you could see on both sides of it, there's big shortcomings. And this is the end result is sometimes people die because of these things, bro. Like I told you about car crashes that happen because, for example, they just dropped a roundabout in the middle of a motorway and someone drove into it. People die. Or some people, they got a contract from the government to build government housing. They cut corners, they built it badly. A tiny little earthquake, the whole building collapsed, people die. Yeah. And then that's not to mention the inconveniences that people have on a daily basis because of this same type of thing. And you can see clearly how it happens on the low levels where people are not doing the work properly, and on the high levels where there's no accountability and there's corruption. And that's what I'm saying, bro. Like the end result is it's not a very smooth country to live in, despite the people being very nice. This is another example I give you, okay? I was talking to my cousin who briefly visited Morocco. So he's like born, raised Algeria, everything, but he happened to visit Morocco. He's like, bro, Morocco's different. Morocco is just different thing completely. He's like, and I was following what I say. I'm just like, yes, agreeing fully, because I also went to Morocco recently. He's like, in Morocco, you go to the cafe, the restaurant, whatever, the guy will come, he'll greet you, he'll call you Sidi, he'll be like, what can I do for you, this and that, give you whatever menu, this and that, and then all of that, yeah? Now he's like, imagine Algeria, yeah? In Algeria, you go to a cafe, the waiter doesn't pay attention to you. You come, you sit, and he'll just be doing his thing. He'll probably be like watching his phone, smoking, something like that. Then if you dare to call the waiter over, you're in trouble. Because from the other side of the cafe, you'll call him, he'll look at you, and he'll just be like, like what? What do you want? Okay? Yeah. Then you have to, what do you do? If you insist he comes to you, now you're going to fight, right? If you have to shout your order to him, He'll be like, okay, all right, all right. Then he'll take 10 minutes to get you a coffee or whatever. And then in the end, maybe the glass is dirty. He'll give you a little thing. And then you'll be like, no, no, but I asked you for this. He'll be like, he'll make a face at you like, oh man, come on. You're making me work now. And
I'm sure it's all like that, bro. I'm
of course,
sure there's
but
some great
no, but
places.
like, this is, this is, I think it's fair to say this is typical. And I'm saying this to say that if you went to that same guy who's the waiter and who's like giving you attitude and he's not, doesn't want to serve you, even though it's his job, if you went to his house, he'll treat you like a king. You know,
Yeah,
he'll
yeah,
bring you
cool.
everything. He'll lay it out for you. He'll make
I
sure
mean,
everything's clean.
yeah, it's like that hospitality culture that Morocco has because of
Yeah, it's
the
hospitality
sort of
culture, but
reputation.
zero professionalism and work ethic culture. You know, that's the thing.
What I
So
will say
it
though,
was,
like I've seen, it's hard to talk like this and then not subconsciously feel like, uh, oh well, the UK or the West in general is so much better because of this, the opposite. But I've seen the underbelly and I've seen the veneer. I mean, we've all kind of saw it a little bit when it was COVID and all the what's the word? All of that kind of dodgy dealing that you were talking about got exposed with the contracts and that
oh,
happens
that happens in
everywhere,
every
right?
country. It's just
And
there's different levels to it. Yeah,
no, there is this glossy Vaseline kind of thing about the UK where they make you think, oh, the West in general, they make you think everyone's professional and everything's smooth and everything's a well-oiled machine, and
yeah,
actually it really is chaotic under the scenes.
yeah.
And I saw that with the police. You look at you look at British policing and you'll think, well, they're the best in the world. I mean, it's the birthplace of policing, really. Modern day policing was born in the United Kingdom. Robert Peel, I think his name was, or whatever, back in the 1800s or however long ago it was. Anyway, that's a whole history lesson for another day. But you think, oh, it's a well-oiled machine and they know everything, and it reminds me of that Trump assassination. How could they have? How could they fumble that? It must be an inside job. Blah blah blah. Like there is this kind of elevation of Western
Well, it's part of the marketing of
governments
Western
and organizations.
civilization. Yeah,
Exactly, 100%. That they make you think like it's a well-oiled machine.
yeah,
Even the job I do at the moment, it is within that kind of sphere of like public sector and
yeah,
infrastructure and stuff like that, right?
yeah,
And coming in, you think, oh well, this is going to be a well-oiled machine because I've seen the roads back home, right?
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
mentioned, and you go into there and it's like, oh, that company is actually scamming this organization, and this guy is doing dodgy dealings with that one, and the work that they've done here is actually atrocious because they're trying to cut money and fund it. And I'm like, bro, this is just like Tunisia. Like, what I think it is Tunisia, right? But there is this gloss, and I think a lot of it does, like you said, marketing is a perfect word for it. And also, they're very good at like web design, making their websites look very
yeah.
clean
Photography
and
and this and
functional and stuff.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the underbelly, the back end of that, I've seen the back end systems of these kind of public sector, and it's like it's chaos. It's absolute chaos, but behind the
yeah,
scenes, there isn't anyone that's doing their job properly or knows what they're doing. The
yeah,
reason why you get a delay in service is because nobody knows where anything is. There are so much middle management, so many uh, useless, pointless positions and pointless jobs that actually
yeah,
things just get lost.
yeah,
Um, and within those gaps, people take advantage. Within those gaps, contractors take advantage. It was the same in policing. It was always like, all right, let's palm this off. How can we palm this off to someone else? There is this palm off culture where it's like, how can we not deal with this and give it to another department or someone else? Or I remember once doing it with an arrest because so like response department, which was like 999 response, they deal with a certain set of crimes. When I say deal, they go to every crime, but they investigate a certain set. Otherwise, you pass it on to an investigations department. Okay. So in our force, uh, what was it? Aggravated burglary was something that was investigated by detectives and like the investigations department. However, possession of a knife and possession of a knife and burglary itself, so just those two separate items, were what's the word? They're investigated by the response team. So they will be investigated by me. And I arrested somebody who was outside of a house with a knife, kicking the door down. When I first arrested him, I arrested him for burglary, okay? Because he was kicking the door down with whatever. Then when I was about to put him in the car, well, I was still talking to him actually. I said, "Have you got anything on you? You shouldn't have." He's like, "I've got a knife." He goes to pull it out, and then I had to like wrestle him and whatever. So took the knife off him. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be such a big job to kind of investigate. It's going to take me forever. Blah blah blah. I've still got all this other paperwork to do." And then like I got a flick of the switch in my brain. I was like, "Wait, this technically could be aggravated burglary because he was going into a house burglary with a weapon, and he was talking about trying to kill somebody." So it's like, how can I palm this off to the next department?
Yeah.
So I de-arrested him for what I said, and I just arrested him for aggravated burglary. And then I called up the investigations people, and I was like, "I've got an aggravated burglary for you. You know, be prepared because you're gonna have to interview him." And they were like, "Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't." Like trying to palm it back to me. Like, no, no, you don't. No, there's no way you do because it doesn't happen that often, especially in the middle of the day. And I was like, "Nah, I think I do." Like, I'm trying to sell it,
Yeah.
right? And eventually, yeah, they had to take it because my case was a bit stronger. Because yes, technically, it could be seen as that. So that's just a small scale, and that is in a what you would think is a well-oiled machine, which is policing. Now, I know obviously policing is under the radar and it's very heavily scrutinized in this day and age, but you do still, you know, your everyday interaction with police or policing events in general. Like, let's say you went to some big event in, I don't know, some big event in the park, Hyde Park, okay? And you would see armed police walking around and patrols, and you think, "Oh, I'm being secured right now by a well-oiled machine." Like they probably have eyes and ears and cameras everywhere. You know, you come to this city where I am now, you see cameras everywhere. You think, "Oh, we're being watched," and it's like a well-oiled machine. I bet that Big Brother, dude. There's like one guy behind the camera. You can only look at one camera at a time. But it's the marketing of like, "Oh, I'm being watched all the time,"
Yeah.
you know, or it's
What it seems
how
like
many times
versus
have
what
I
it is.
yeah, it's like you used to call up the camera guy and say, "Oh, can you have a look at this for me?" He's like, "No, I can't. There's a seagull blocking it or something." Like, "Oh, Big Brother's not as big as I thought it was."
Yeah.
You know, like the marketing is so good, and it's hundreds of years of marketing, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
From colonization, the
Yeah.
marketing that they did within our countries when they colonized us,
Yeah.
and the marketing that still goes on today, despite the fact that the hypocrisy and the flawedness of it all is
Yeah.
there for everyone to see. But I do believe it's slowly getting chipped away. And it gets chipped away
Yeah.
by us changing our perspectives of what our countries are back home in the diaspora. It gets chipped away by the people that are back home having pride in their country and treating it with respect and having what you said, a good work ethic and ihsan in everything they do. And I do see it. It might not be, you know, as what we want it to be to the level, but
Yeah.
I am seeing it more and more. You know,
I
I'm
mean,
seeing
obviously, you
these
have to have some
cleanup.
people that are like that. They carry the country, you know.
100%. I say social media because I see it on social media, but actually they also see it on their own social media. Of you know how much engagement farming would you get, bro, if you were to say right now in Turkey, do a little like viral, "I'm going to clean up this street." People would love that. It would just be getting clicks and shares. Remember that cleanup, the trend that was going on? I can't remember what it was called a few years ago. People
Where
were
was
like
that?
competing on how well, there was a name for it, wasn't there? But it was like a worldwide phenomenon
Worldwide.
where
Okay.
everyone was getting involved. It was like this cleanup thing where people were comparing like before and after they'd clean up a neighborhood.
Right.
And I started seeing it spread everywhere. And then North Africa started
Right.
doing it and every country started doing it. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is the kind of power that social media has because you see that kind of positive messaging does actually connect and resonate with people, especially when it's, you know, young people doing it with the intention of might be intention of going viral, but also the intention of something positive. They
Yeah.
can uplift people back
Yeah.
home, like all the boycott stuff that you were seeing in North Africa. A lot of influencers there were teaching others how to boycott and what to boycott, and it kind of spread on, and it became this like social phenomenon over there that people were getting judged and shamed for buying Coca-Cola or shamed for buying. So the energy is there when it's needed, and when it really is needed. And
Yeah.
I think that is a generation, this generation, inshallah, growing up there,
Yeah.
bi'idnillah, from what I see, is one that is proud of where they're from and want to improve where they're from because they do start seeing the hypocrisy of the West and the narrative that, I know I'm rambling, but the narrative that, you know, ma'aj fiha Europe, you know, Europe has got nothing left in it for us, for the people that want to go there.
Mm.
That is actually reaching back home.
Mm.
You know, I've sat with people that 10 years ago were craving to come to Europe, France, UK, whatever. And now they're like, why would I go there? I've seen what it's like. And they've seen the videos, bro. They've seen the rainbows. They've seen the crime rates. They've seen people fighting with swords. The viral videos we have here reaches them.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I didn't know France was like this. I didn't know there were riots like that. You know, I didn't. I mean, that Leeds rioting that happened in the UK recently, that
Yeah.
reaches back home. They think we're better off here.
Mm.
You know. Sorry, that was
Yeah.
a long speech, but
Yeah.
it's about perspectives.
So yeah, like
I'm sure.
there is that corruption in every single country in the world, and it's just about the levels. And this is what, like, one of my cousins who's like very very negative, Miskeen, yeah. So when I talk to him, my default is to like obviously go the opposite. So I'm like, yeah, but what about this and what about that? And
Yeah, 100%.
you know, there does come a point though where I can't argue back, which is every country in the world, the government or whoever it is. I mean, like in the UK, business runs the UK. Big businesses and corporate interests, they run the UK. In Algeria, the military runs the government. So it just depends where you are. Different factions would run the country, but in reality, you think it's the government, but there's really someone behind them, right? That's in every country. But one thing he said, which I really can't really argue with, is he said, yes, every country is like that, but in some countries, they take 90% and leave 10. In some countries, they take, 50% and leave 50. In some countries, they take 10%, they leave 90%. And in Algeria, they just take too much. They take too much. It's like, look, develop. You can steal your money. Like, people are at that level. They're like, you can steal from us. It's fine.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
leave us with a bit of space to develop as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's the
I can
same
imagine that.
everywhere. It's the same everywhere. It's just there's levels to it. That's it. It's pretty much it. Every country is
Yeah.
a territory for a gang, and there are just different types of gangs and stuff running it in different ways. But I think the level that you can judge the level it's at by the outcomes. So the UK, I'm sure, has a lot of chaos and a lot of stuff not running smoothly. But do buildings just collapse, right?
Well,
Because they were cutting corners. I know there was that,
but
what's that building that went on
you'd be
fire?
surprised. Grenfell, yeah, like
Yeah.
Grenfell was an amazing example. I tell you why Grenfell was.
Yeah.
It's good that you brought that up because that cladding issue
Yeah.
was a corner cutting procedure, and it wasn't
Yeah.
until the fire that now, bro, the apartment I used to live at,
Yeah.
that when that happened, they
Yeah.
brought in inspectors. Turns out our apartment was covered in the same stuff because people cut corners. Turns out many, many, many places had
Yeah.
that. I mean, it was the same thing with asbestos back in the day,
Yeah.
cutting corners and
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
not doing their checks
Yeah.
correctly. It happens. It happens everywhere.
Yeah.
And
But the Grenfell thing
like I
was
said,
such a big
souvenir.
deal because it was a surprise to people and it wasn't seen as widespread.
Yeah.
But in other countries, it's just normal, right? The other thing I
Of
realized
course.
why Algerians will highlight these negatives and these problems, obviously because they're impacted by it, but also because they have a higher ambition for themselves or for the country, the way they see themselves. Like, for example, I was thinking about it. I'm like, in Algeria, there's quite a few like people from Niger, people from Mali who are like refugees or whatever. Some of them trying to get to Europe, some of them just trying to leave their country,
That's
right?
where they live. Yeah.
And they're like begging in the streets a lot of the time. And I was thinking, what's the difference between Mali and Algeria, really? Because Mali's full of resources, just like Algeria. So in Mali, they could say our country should be top of the tops, right? But there's this and this and this barrier. Same in Algeria. That's what people say. They're like, look, but we've got these resources. We're in this location. We've got this and this. So,
I think we can't understate the effects of colonialism, not just
of
physically
course,
in terms of like
bro. Yeah, no,
the
of course.
stealing and the theft of
Yeah, yeah.
resources, but
But
even till this day,
yeah,
mentally. And I think, look, I think colonialism made it like this, right? So the West, in terms of standards of living, because of colonialism and the resources that they took, it shot up in terms of standard of living and also the mentality, the superiority, the everything runs well here, etc. And it really did put other countries that it stole from, such as Mali, such as Algeria, such as Tunisia, etc.,
mm,
right at the bottom. mentally colonized because of the inferiority complex of we were a colonized people, etc., and resource-wise as well, and everything in between. The contracts that are still running to this day. The fact that
Yeah.
you still have to do stuff through France. You can't even trade money. Like you can't trade money between. I can't trade my Tunisian dinar with your Algerian dirhams just like that. In terms of the official, it has to go through the dollar first, or it has to go through the euro first.
Yeah.
Like there's all these checks and balances that the West still
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
us. Um,
But my point, bro, was
but
different. My point is that Algerians complain a lot because they see themselves as having higher standards for themselves, and
of course,
they're like, we're not like. For example, I could say, look, you've got all this gas and oil money, you've got electricity nearly everywhere, you've got internet, you've got food. Like people are not starving in Algeria hardly and stuff. I could say
yeah,
that, but they would say, well, of course we shouldn't be. We're not that level, right? So they see
yeah. But
themselves as
everyone
that.
has that,
Yeah,
bro.
everyone has that,
That's what
exactly.
I'm
I don't
saying.
know
Everyone
about in
has it. What I'm
Mali
saying
how
is
they see themselves, but
the gap is
yeah,
slowly closing, is what I'm trying to say. And one
yeah.
day I do believe strongly that it will be overtaken. I 100% agree. I 100% believe that the gap will close and it will be overtaken. In many places, in many arenas, the gap is already closed. In terms of actual human decency, the gap is already closed in my eyes.
What,
Wallahi al-Azim. We
what do you
exceed
mean? The
them in
gap
look.
was there
There
and
was
it's
never a
still
gap
there.
actually. Sorry, that was even worse than me saying. There was never a gap.
Yeah, yeah.
We were
We're just
always
talking
exceeding them
about
in human
material
decency.
development here.
Huh?
We're just talking about material development. We're not talking about
No, of
societal
course.
this and that.
I'm saying like that we can't understate the power of Iman and Tawheed and the belief in Allah subhanahu
Yeah,
wa
yeah,
ta'ala
for
when it
sure.
comes to these things, because it's fundamental in terms of the betterment and the barakah that is given to people.
For sure.
We were a damaged and colonized people. But we still kept and remained faithful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by Allah's permission we will continue to increase so, especially in terms of education, religious education, because I think there was a big gap through colonization that has really damaged
Yeah,
the
yeah.
knowledge that the average North African might have. I only speak about North
That's
Africa from
true.
that perspective. uh, there are those videos,
Oh,
unfortunately, of
Arabic was
people
like
being interviewed on the high street
tried to wipe it
and they don't
out.
even know Surah Al-Fatiha, but if you ask them if they're Muslim, they say they are. Okay, that shaming is good, I think, in a way, because it makes people like wake up a little bit. But with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put some barakah in our endeavors. We ask and pray to Allah for guidance. I see the way that the society changes in Ramadan, and the way that the masajid are packed, and the way like the iman boosting experience you might have just
Yeah.
walking the streets, especially at Taraweeh time in any Muslim country, and especially near the masajid. The barakah will come, and we're competing with people that are literally, shayateen walking this earth. We really are. So uh, their time is, they might be having a comfortable life now, but in the long term, I think we'll see the benefits and the fruits of our perseverance. Bi'idhnillah.
Inshallah, ya Rab. Um,
Inshallah.
there's a lot actually to talk about, but maybe next episode. I wanted to, because I was like looking into a few things on the Algerian civil war and stuff. But I think, yeah, it's a good thing to say actually at this point that it's safe to say we're still colonized. It's safe to say that. And that gives us some excuses at least. But it means there's work to do as well.
Yeah. I've realized, I know maybe the last year or two or three, you might have noticed me being like maybe extra optimistic about, Muslim countries, no matter where they are. And I think it has been a massive shift in my perspective, because I want to treat Muslim countries like I would treat you, like a Muslim brother. I want to give the whole country as a collective the same rights that I would give an individual Muslim. So I would try and yes, there are mistakes and there are deficiencies but I do want to promote the good. I do want to say, well, listen, there's a great people, there's great initiatives, there is goodness if you want to see it. If you want to look for flaws, you will find many. And when we have that within us, I mean, look at the da'wah politics. just on Twitter, for example. You know, if you want to find someone's flaws, you will find many. If you want to make clips of somebody's worst moments and make them out like they're a deviant or they're egotistical or they're doing it for fame or whatever it is, you will find it and you will change public opinion towards that individual and you will expose them and you will ruin their careers. You could do that about Algeria. You could do that about Tunisia. You could do that about any country. And I think as
Yeah.
long as we keep doing that to ourselves, we will always be mentally colonized. But if we can just switch that paradigm and be optimistic and see the good and focus on the good, and I believe that is the outlook the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have had with Muslims in general, to be easy on the Muslims and harsh on the kuffar, so to speak, that wala al-bara kind of thing. Then I think that will change our perspective so much, because we are, at least, the diaspora are in this weird place where we have a little bit of haughtiness to back home. We walk the streets with our red passport and we just feel like we're a little bit more ahead. We're a little bit eyes open. We know a little bit more. And yeah, we could get eaten up alive, but we've always got somewhere to run away to, which is the UK or the Europe or whatever. But then you walk the streets of the UK and Europe and you're kind of not really from there. And they look down upon you and you look down upon yourself whilst you walk amongst them, because that's how they make you feel. And then you never really fit in. You've got this superiority complex with your own people, but an inferiority complex with the people that you walk amongst in the West. Yet you talk about how much you love the Ummah, how much you love Islam. And there was a time, bro, when I went to Tunisia and I realized that in myself, and I said, do you know what? So many of these people are better than me. And I think I mentioned it on Mind Heist once, where there was a drunk, I know it's pretty bad, but there was like a known drunk man in Tunisia, and he came up to me, and in myself, I was like, "Oh, look at this sinner." And I'll be honest. Look at this, known sinner, and he was trying to tell me something about Islam, and my haughtiness and my arrogance wouldn't allow me to take it, because I hate alcohol. I just hate it. So that was part of like why I didn't want to. And bro, he just started reciting ayat Surah Al-Baqarah to me like it was just easy, just easy. And that was such a game-changing moment for me, because he just sins differently than I do, but he knows Islam way more than I clearly do. He's sinning, yes, but he knows he's sinning, and may Allah forgive him, may Allah aid him. And I've realized that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people in Muslim countries.
Yeah.
So that outlook and that perspective, I think, is very important. Maybe I'm like a broken record now, but I will keep hammering that home, inshallah.
Yeah. When I mention anything that needs work in Algeria, for example, on this episode, I'm not really judging the whole population or anything. I'm more like, I don't know, like for example, when I see, when I put myself in the shoes of someone who is born and raised in Algeria, or even someone who just lives there and full time, like, I don't judge them. I can understand how everything works out that way. Like, for example, even just like the work ethic thing we're talking about. If no one around me is working hard, why am I going to work hard as well? I stick by the fact that that's a huge problem. And that's like one of the reasons I maybe wouldn't want to live there. And that's a big problem holding everything back. I stand by that. But I'm not like judging people on an individual level. There are some people, though, that need judging. There are people that need holding to account. Yeah. There are people who've cut corners and this and that. And we should attack them fully. As part of defending the country, we attack those individuals that have that clear proof against them. And we need to weed out those kind of people. But yeah, I think you have to understand your position. So somebody who's in like a lot of the optimism that you have, I think that's a privilege you have of not living in Tunisia, for example, that you almost have this audacity to be positive, right? Whereas if you're living in it, you feel quite dragged down by it, perhaps, right? But now I could say, oh, that's your privilege. But no, that's an advantage you have that maybe you should use as something to help people, So there's different ways of viewing things.
There is also that element, bro, of the opposite, where the blame of someone else is the deflection of my own inaction. Oh, well, we can't tidy up because that and that and that. Or we
No.
can't make this look nice. We can't keep our city clean because they're stealing the money. Well, it
Hmm.
didn't stop you like chucking your rubbish out the window when you're driving your car, or it didn't stop you from leaving your
Yeah.
rubbish behind at the beach. Like little things like that, because
Yeah.
it's the everyday Muwatin that makes the city disgusting. Let's be honest.
That's
It's
true.
not the. It's
Well,
not
it's
the.
both. It's
Yes,
both.
there's. You could
That's what
take.
I'm saying.
There are
That's what I'm
places to
saying
put
about not
rubbish.
judging. Yeah.
There are-
So, for example, in Algeria, like Algeria has a big rubbish problem. Okay, like rubbish
yeah,
everywhere. Okay, I saw this kid. He's walking. Yeah, that was it. He's obviously been sent to take the rubbish to the bin. Okay, so he's got this
yeah.
big heavy bag, and he gets like 10 meters from the bin, like far from the bin. He just throws it towards the bin. It hits it. It falls on the side, not in the bin, but he's just gone. He's already left. Okay.
100%.
Now, that's what I'm saying. Part of it is his fault. Like, why is he doing that? Did his parents not teach him right? And then part of it is like, well, maybe he sees all the other rubbish and he's like, it doesn't make much difference because maybe the Beladia didn't pick it up properly. So
100%. But
both
it.
sides can be judged.
It infuriates me, bro, because that's the easiest thing. That is personal responsibility, but
Yeah.
they won't because they say, like you said, oh, the Beladia, or there's no
Yeah.
bins, or
Yeah.
you don't do that in your house.
Yeah.
You don't do it in your house.
Yeah.
You don't chuck rubbish like that in your house. So why would you
Yeah.
chuck it in the street? And that
Yeah.
is a mentality. Wallahi, I think, actually, if we could sort that out, if we had an initiative to really sort that out, everything else will follow. Because it's the broken windows theory. Remember studying it in criminology.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are aware of it. A building will have no broken windows and it's actually treated quite nicely. But you see, the minute there's one broken window and it's neglected, everyone thinks, oh, that's a
Yeah.
decrepit building.
Yeah.
I'll graffiti on it. I'll do this on it. I'll chuck my rubbish
Well,
there.
like if
I'll
you don't
urinate on the
tidy up your
walls.
front garden, then other people start not tidying it, and then it becomes a neighborhood that's like that.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
personal
man, it's
responsibility. But you know something very interesting I heard about this. I don't want to keep adding to the time of the podcast, but someone said
No, it's
something, which again, as an outsider, I could judge people hard for that, yeah. But what's interesting is the psychology that someone said, I heard it years ago about Algeria, but it kind of could be applied anywhere. You know how in the UK, like Muslims kind of act like, well, it's not our country anyway, like who cares, or, whatever.
yeah.
Some people like in Algeria, for example, they have that thinking about their own country. They're a citizen, they're
Really?
born there, their grandparents are there, their great grandparents are from there. But you know what it is? It's a subtle thing in the psychology that it's not our country, it's these guys, these army generals, whether
Really?
we're just borrowing it off them. Like, it's a bit of that psychology happens sometimes as well. So it's like, it's there.
Nice.
So if I throw rubbish, it's their mess to clear up anyway.
I'm
They should-
surprised. I'm surprised because they're very like nationalistic anyway.
No, that's
like
what I'm saying. Like
mutu
some
ala
people,
bladhum.
obviously.
Yeah, no. But even those people, I would be surprised that they would. Anyway, it's strange. It's a strange one for me.
But when you feel no power to make moves, let's say, for your personal life or to improve your community,
Yeah.
when you feel that, you can imagine people going down that route of like, well, what can I do anyway? Forget it. It's they've corrupted everything and they stop us taking steps forward. So halas, let them have it. Let them deal with it. Who cares?
That is also combined with what you said earlier about being around people that are not go-getters and are not motivated enough and they're just
Yeah.
lazy. And I see
Yeah.
a lot of that. It's just
Well,
excuses.
social
Like,
pressure is a very strong power force. Yeah.
it's like all these, bro, wallahi al-azim, how many people are in the cafes in Tunisia, young men, capable, able-bodied men, just, oh, I can't find work. And bro, there's like 10, 20, 30 women, old women, like working in the fields that shouldn't be there. And I remember asking my dad about this when he was still alive. I was like, it just dawned upon me because all my life I grew up seeing women working in the fields and men in the cafes. I just didn't cross my mind about it.
Yeah.
It didn't hit me. And then
Yeah.
when I started practicing and thinking, obviously the men needs to be the breadwinner, etc., and the woman should be at home, etc.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I grew up. But then it all flips on its head when I'm walking across the field and I see all these women like picking the vegetables and stuff. It's like, Dad, what's going on there? Like, he's like, well, they think they're too good for field work, and the women need to obviously eat, so they end up doing the field work.
Mm.
And the men just, and a lot of the guys, the young ones, they'll ask their mum for money just so they can go to the cafe
Yeah.
whilst they're looking for a job with their shayad. Oh, but and I've got a baccalaureate, and I did medicine, or I did flipping pharmaceutical, or I did business. I'm not going to go work in a field.
Yeah.
I'd rather sit in the cafe and be jobless
Yeah.
than actually earn something.
Yeah.
And once again, a mentality issue.
Yeah. That's why I rate my cousin, who he graduated from uni and everything. He probably spent 2, 3, 4 years trying to find jobs, or he was like working in his dad's shop for a bit. And then eventually he just bought a car, taxi driver. And now that's the wedding I went to. That was his wedding. And he just got on with life. And he's one of, yani, there are like 2, 3 cousins I have that are very proactive and they're workers, yani, and he's one of them. And he could be in another situation where it's kind of like feeling sorry for himself, but he just didn't let ego get in his way, and he just did what he needs to do, man.
That is a big, I can imagine the big pressure that has on someone's mental health in general, mental attitude, because North Africans in general that go through the education system are extremely clever, extremely smart, very well educated. They are educated to a very high level, and there is that mentality that everybody is going for the next stage, so you should go for it too. PhD, masters, whatever, like just keep going, keep going, keep going, and then right at the end they don't find the work,
Yeah.
and they can't find the access abroad. Some of them, very educated, will illegally immigrate abroad, thinking that maybe I can use this abroad, and then end up, washing dishes. Or obviously, I don't want to be derogatory, but when you have no paperwork, what kind of work are you going to find that will pay you cash in hand under the radar? And it is those kind of jobs where it's like
Yeah.
working on the back of a restaurant or doing some odd decorating, whatever, here and there.
Yeah.
And you've kind of lost access to back home. You haven't been able to use your shayad. You're disconnected from your family, and then you're just resentful being here, wanting to go back. I know someone who's been here for like 20, 30 years, no paperwork, not able to go back home because they will lose access to here. It's a trap. It's a trap unless you can
So
come.
he's not been back home for that long.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think he's in the process of getting his paperwork now, but it's it's the trap of there's young, actually, every time I go to the masjid there are young guys that are here from North Africa. Every few years there's different faces. There's one guy I know at the moment, he's been here for 2 years. He's in the process of getting his paperwork, but which means he never came here with paperwork, if you know what I mean. He never came here like on a job visa,
Yeah.
the proper way. And I think he's painting, decorating, or something like that. But I bet you, if I was to ask him his education, bet you he's got shahid more than me. It's just not the inability to use it over there, which is really sad. And I do sympathize, and I don't want to be just like stupidly optimistic. I'd like to think, I can see where the issues are, and I am privileged. But there's two types of privilege, I think, bro. There's a privilege where you go over there as a tourist and you feel like you're better than everyone. And there's a privilege of, well, I want to go over there. Yes, I've got access, but I also want to be positive about being here, people here, everything here, and remind people, hey, listen, it's not that bad. Let's try and find a way.
Yeah, while empathizing with them, also trying to uplift them. I mean, privilege is a neutral thing. It's not positive or negative. It just depends how you use it. The Prophet ﷺ was privileged. He's from Quraysh. He used his position, to convince people to either support him or become Muslim, or etc., etc. So it is what you make out of it. And I was struggling again, trying to persuade one of my cousins. This cousin of mine, he's one of those. He's pretty much the only cousin who's very fixated on leaving Algeria. No, I have 2 of them. He's one of them. So I was trying to convince him. I was like, look, if you go to France, you're going to have to work like a dog, okay? Whatever you think is over there, maybe it'll work out for you, but you're going to work like a dog. And if you just work like a dog in Algeria, you'll do fine. So, like, you're going to have to work like a dog either way. So just stay in your country, do things legally, and you'll be fine. But, I understand where he's coming from, because, like, he's like, he's got a friend who went over there. He got a basic job at the airport, like driving a bus to and from the airport, something like that. He gets like 2,000 euros a month. He's got his own apartment. He got married. And for someone in Algeria who can't even dream of that,
Yeah.
I could see the allure, you know. And honestly,
Yeah,
like,
100%.
it was hard for me to argue with that, just because, like, I know that it's better to stay in Algeria, or I think I do anyway, because I see so many opportunities that people are just not taking to make money in Algeria. So I'm just like, yeah, it all comes down to work ethic. But then, yeah, it's just very attractive to just go over there. Just once you get a job, you got the 2,000 euros coming in. And yes, mate, in some cheaper cities in France, you could live middle class on 2,000 euros and stuff. But a lot of people,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to tell him as well. Like, look, bro, most people in Europe, they're living hand to mouth. The society is not good. You've got the issues with your iman. You've got tax threats on your iman, this and that. I'm trying to like explain
Yeah.
these things. But then he's like, yeah, but what about my friend who went over there and he's got a wife and he's this and he's all right and he's still praying and he's still...
Until
Yeah.
until the time comes, because there's so many
Yeah, I
that
mean, yeah,
I've seen
sometimes you
throughout
got to
my
give it a
30
few
years.
decades to see the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah, you exactly. Like I remember going to a wedding at 10 years old, bro, going to a wedding of somebody who married he married like an older French woman, shall we say.
Yeah.
The wedding was in the village, etc. And I was like, I was old enough to realize that I don't think this is going to go the way he kind of wanted it to go, right? And now the kids are older, teenagers, etc. And he just wants to come back. He wants to bring them back. He's desperate to bring them back to Tunisia, but obviously there's going to be a friction there between,
Yeah.
can I bring these kids back? They're half and whatever. They're losing. The France isn't the place to be, and you know they're losing their way, and I'm scared. And the religiosity increased going to France, which generally tends to happen. Like a lot of them, it's one or two ways. Never really stays the same.
That's
You either
true.
become more religious or you lose your way completely, right? So there is that, and I do what is new is I have seen a lot of this talk that people are trying not to go to Europe anymore. They're trying to go to the Gulf. Like a lot of Tunisians I know went to Qatar to work
Yeah.
there and do stuff there, and the Gulf in general tends to take a lot of North Africans because of the added, Arabic language, for example. And I think that's probably less controversial than going to Europe in these days, because you kind of
Well,
treat it a particular way in Europe now.
it's better materially, and it's better for your religion
Yeah.
to go over there. But you
Yeah.
know, Algerians don't really make it in UAE, at least. I noticed there's more Algerians in Qatar than UAE. In UAE, you have to be the type of person that keeps your head down. Algerians do not keep their head down. You know, Algerians
I
will.
think it's just access as well, no? We were looking at the passports and stuff, and the political kind of relationship between UAE and Algeria isn't very, very good in terms of access.
I don't.
I think UAE needs
I don't
a
know if
visa to
that
get into
would
Algeria, whilst a lot of Muslim countries don't.
to get into Algeria.
And
Yes, but I'm
vice
talking
versa.
about because most Algerians that worked in the UAE, they were either professors or they worked in oil and gas, which are quite limited sectors, yani, and those are sectors where oil and gas, they try and get Emiratis and stuff to work in there. But the point is, like, Algerians, for example, they don't stay quiet when they see injustice. They cannot do that.
Right.
But in UAE, you need to kind of do that, to get by. That's why some people from certain countries
mean-
who have that more, they will flourish more in UAE. But Algerians, they beef it out.
You'd have that in any country that you're not from, though. Like you go to, any
Yeah, but
Algerian
there's
going to any
levels.
country and trying to.
There's levels, like, in
Huh?
Turkey, there's levels
Yeah,
to
of
it.
course.
In Turkey, Syrians will fight with Turks. They'll argue, like, they'll debate, and it's kind of fine and normal. In UAE, if you fight with an Emirati, you're going to get deported, so.
Yeah. Well, I'd argue maybe Syrians at the moment haven't got that ability anymore. Because
Again,
of
like I said, there's
the
levels.
political scene, yeah.
I'm surprised, like, how much, because I'm coming from the Gulf to here, I'm surprised, like, how
Yeah.
much kind of rights Syrians have here. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up, bro. Maybe we could do even a part 2 about this topic. But yeah, I think we
Go on
covered a
forever.
lot. It was good. Yeah, it's good. Let us know your input either, I don't know, via Twitter, via our links, via
Yeah,
the
I
group
really want to hear
chat.
from listeners that have an ability to be dual nationals but haven't jumped on it, and I want to know why. I really do. It really interests me.
Yeah. Yeah. So let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you thought I was only sharing one side of the story. I will, inshallah, be going to Algiers, to the capital, inshallah,
Yeah,
in a few
good.
months. So I'll see how that is. I'm looking forward to that, bro. I'm looking forward to
That'll be
seeing
good.
potentially another side of things. I also, actually, I'm not going to get into the topic. Okay. So, subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Shadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Excellent. Oh,